By virtue of the power vested in me by the Commonwealth of Virginia and the Board of Trustees of Marymount University, I proudly confer the degree Doctor of Humane Letters upon Mr. Kevin Plank.
Dr. Shank, Lita, thank you very much. That took me 7 years to do at the University of Maryland, so that was the quickest degree I've ever received. Thank you very much. I would like to thank President Shank. He's been great in just preparing for this moment to be able to have a chance to address the graduates and all the families and loved ones that are here. And to take a moment and thank, obviously, the trustees, the faculty, alumni, families, and of course the graduates. Congratulations to all of you. It's a big day and a great day because I remember when I was sitting exactly where you are right now today. The essence of what makes Marymount University are some of the things that Dr. Shank took me through just a few weeks ago when we had a chance to catch up. And beyond the global view and vision I think that the university has, the amount of diversity and inclusiveness that it is about Marymount reflected in the student body, and the amount of my favorite phrases that I use at Under Armour all the time is this idea of intellectual curiosity. Those virtues are things that make for a great life, and I challenge and I ask and hope that you all embrace each and every one of those. I mentioned thanking Lita Tracy. When Lita invited me to come speak here, it was more of a well, let me put it this way. Lita is the mother of my best friend from high school. And in that, now my partner in a new venture that I have called Sagamore Rye Whiskey, which is bringing pride in rye whiskey back to the great state of Maryland at some level. You know, we've been needing that for a while now. So when Lita asked me, I can tell you one thing, that you Marymount grads have a very strong point of view, and it's difficult to say no to. So I'm thrilled to be here today to have a chance to address you for just a few minutes. Amongst other relationships Lita has is also a relationship with my mother, the former mayor of Kensington and a director at the State Department here. And I'm happy that she's here. And I think if we could take one moment, I'd like to thank my mom, but all the moms and dads who made graduation possible. Thank you to all of you for having that happen. Thank you, Mother. Wonderful. Because for me, being an entrepreneur, it was my mom who gave me that first start. It was her who gave me the inspiration at the age of 9 when we had the first snowfall in Kensington, Maryland, to get out of bed, grab a shovel, walk next door, and charge $10 to shovel the driveway and the sidewalk for a neighbor. It was my mother who then at 11 allowed me to use the family lawnmower and then pull it all around the neighborhood, mowing lawns for $10 or $15 a piece, and getting the sense of what it means to be an entrepreneur, to be independent, to have my own means. And all of you are about to have that opportunity as well, to set out on this venture. Because it was my mother who was the one, at an age even before either one of those, to grab the card table, to grab a big vat of country time, a bag of ice, a couple cups, head out to a street corner and start selling lemonade at 25 cents a cup. It's like 50 cents now. That's inflation, but that's okay. And you'll hear me talk about selling lemonade, because what that meant, that sense of empowerment, I will encourage all of you, either A, with your young ones, encourage them to get out, to have that sense of pride, but then also to get out and stop and buy some lemonade. More on that to come. So class of 2014, I'm pretty sure there are many different ambitions and dreams that you all have and that you want to do, and frankly, there's probably some empty thoughts that are sitting here as well, going, I don't know what I'm going to do. I want you to know, don't panic, that this is relatively normal. Because to those of you that do have the job, and frankly, you have the next 20 years all worked out with your plan and lockdown, congratulations. But for the rest of us, let's talk about some of the decisions that you're going to be making over the next several years. And by the way, I know this feeling better than anyone else because when I sat where you are at graduation day at College Park at the University of Maryland, I had that guy sitting next to me who had the big job with the big salary at the big accounting firm, all locked up, and they had the plan for the next 20 years all mapped out. And here I was sitting next to them talking about this idea of being an entrepreneur, selling stretchy t-shirts. Now, the word entrepreneur wasn't anywhere near as sexy as it was today, and people didn't really mention it. So I was the vagrant sitting next to him that was going to go do this hustling thing with these t-shirts. Being an entrepreneur was not as popular in '96, but that stretchy t-shirt company is something that actually gave me my life that I'm happy to embrace today. And I'm also proud to declare and tell the world that I am an entrepreneur. And if I have any one goal for today, I will encourage all of you in this audience to hopefully think and consider that idea, whether you have your own job and you're going to start your own business or whether you're going to go work somewhere. Entrepreneurship is a spirit and an attitude more than it is even a career path. So today I want to do a couple things. I want to share a few lessons of my journey with Under Armour that may help you in your own story, whatever that story might be. And I'd also like to encourage some, if not many, if not all of you, to think about what it means to be an entrepreneur. So, thinking about the journey. Class of 2014, the first piece of advice that I'd like to give you is something that I've lived my life by and really drive Under Armour by. It's a very simple theme. It says that when I started my company, I was always smart enough to be naive enough to not know what we could not accomplish. You got to think about it for a second. Smart enough to be naive enough to not know what we could not accomplish. Because you see, people start and they have all these ideas of what right now you can do and frankly what you can't do, what is outside of your grasp. And I'm here to tell you that less than just a few miles from where you sit today, I was a graduate exactly like you, without an exact plan or a specific route as to what I was going to do to run or to drive my company, but I knew that I generally had an idea. I began my business, frankly, with nothing more than an idea, a few relationships, free rent, thank you, Mom, in an old Georgetown row house, $16,000 of cash, and a lot of dreams. And not really huge dreams either, but an understanding that I believed that tomorrow would be bigger than today. I believed that I never thought anyone or anything was impossible for me, that I was smart enough to be naive enough to not know what I could not accomplish. And also the idea of why not me? I was a football player from the University of Maryland. And when I started the company, I kept that understanding, bringing that same sense of naivete that I started the company with, hopefully to work each and every day, of why can't we be the next great, not only athletic brand, but global brand in the world. A company that started incredibly locally in College Park, Maryland, that today does business in more than 61 countries around the world. There are enough people that you will run into and interact with that will define your own limitations. Do not listen to them. Bring that sense of naivety everywhere you go. And believe me, this isn't supposed to be some lame pep talk about you can do anything in the world. I'm telling you, you literally can, if you believe it. If you believe that you can make it happen, why not you? If I had a way that I could define myself on my business card, what I like to say that I'm really good at is I like to be a problem solver. 2014, I'd like to challenge all of you to find a problem to solve. I'm never naive enough to say only in America can a story like Under Armour come to life, but I will say only in entrepreneurship can it actually happen. Entrepreneurship is one of the best and most underused resources that we have in the world because entrepreneurs solve problems and create jobs. I was at a conference this past week, and one of the speakers there was Jeff Immelt, the chairman of General Electric. And he was commenting about sort of the state of big companies in the world. And as he's talking about shareholder value and return and all these things, he said, in fact, though, what people really care about, and the only currency that great companies can trade on is plain and simple, it's jobs. We talked about a global experience, so I'll give you a global stat. He said, the idea of jobs, of having enough place to place the smart engineers, and scientists that we graduate. An example of this is take a country like Ethiopia. 4,000 engineers will graduate this year in Ethiopia. Only 500 of them will have jobs. The role of entrepreneurship has never been more important because that is not a story that exists just outside of the United States. It exists everywhere around the world. So my story was quite simple. I was an athlete, a football player. I played it my whole life. I played football as a kid in cold weather. I'd wear things like a flannel sweatshirt underneath of my pads. Imagine that, a day where you wouldn't have these sleek, tight shirts to keep you warm or keep you cool. It was heavy, soaking wet cotton t-shirts. When I went on to the University of Maryland, I never liked the way that that cotton t-shirt felt beneath my pads and wondered why no one ever made a better alternative to the sweat-soaked cotton t-shirt that when saturated weighed 3 pounds beneath my equipment. Because before Under Armour, the only option that athletes had was a short-sleeve cotton t-shirt in the summer and a long-sleeve cotton t-shirt in the winter. I began with one shirt that I learned to make in a place that I'd only read about. So as an athlete, I'd go out for warm-ups of a game, I'd come back in, I'd change my cotton undershirt. I'd go out for the first half of a game, I'd come back in, I'd change my cotton undershirt. And if a team of more than 100 athletes that were going in and out of the locker room and you only had a little bit of time between these things, you were spending your time pulling pads off, swapping t-shirts out, throwing your towels, drying off, and wondering there had to be a better way. And I didn't have a problem. There was nothing wrong with my glands. I sweat, but it wasn't irregular. But whether I was sweating in my shirt, whether it was raining outside, whether I was pouring water on my head to stay cool, someone had to make something better than this soaking wet cotton t-shirt. And an idea that was so obvious, why did it take until 1996 for someone to come up with that? There were a lot of people in sports, a lot of people in our business, but the obvious answer was right in front of us. So as I mentioned, with nothing more than an idea of a concept of what if we had a better alternative to that cotton t-shirt, a shirt that would wear snug to the body like a second skin, that wouldn't hold moisture or the moisture's weight, be made of this synthetic-like material. I went to a local fabric store, I bought some material. I took that fabric to a local tailor, brought them a tight little white Hanes t-shirt and said, "Sir, can you please make me as many t-shirts that look like this out of this stretchy synthetic material?" 7 prototypes later, I took them back to my teammates at the University of Maryland in the spring of 1996, setting to graduate that May. The feedback came back from my teammates that they liked it. And what I realized quickly is of the 7 shirts I passed out, one of the athletes was also a baseball player, another one also a lacrosse player. And quickly it came back and they said, "Hey, this thing's pretty neat." The other athletes on the baseball team wonder where they can get one. The other athletes on the lacrosse team wonder where they can get one. And one of the guys on the lacrosse team, his girlfriend plays on the girls' lacrosse team, they'd like one as well. I quickly realized that what I had wasn't just one great product for wear underneath the football pads, but it was an idea that you should expect more from your apparel, that your apparel could be like equipment as well. No one had talked about or looked at this world. Innovation lived in things like the helmets, or it lived in things like the footwear. Everyone had forgotten about their apparel. So the way that I got my company to grow is I reached out to my network. So think about the network that you have at 22, 23 years old. You're imagining it's not very big. It's really just the other graduates that you have here. It's the friends, the ones that you've known between high school and between college. That was all my network was. And I realized I had this fleeting time. What made my experience unique, that between St. John's College High School, just a few miles away from here, between Fork Union Military Academy, the prep school that I went to for a year before I went on to the University of Maryland, between my teammates at Maryland, that I knew these athletes, many of which were lucky enough to have gone on and playing in the NFL and playing at different colleges and having these high profiles. And instead of being the obnoxious third cousin to call them and say, "Congratulations, you're making all this money. Can I borrow $500? Instead, I was a friend that would send them 3 t-shirts. And I said, "Try this shirt. If you like it, wear it. And if you really like it, give one to the guy in the locker next to you." One by one, word of mouth by word of mouth, our company began to grow. That first year in business, we did $17,000 in 1996. Then $110,000, then $400,000, $1.3 million, $5 million. Our first 5 years in business growing from 0 to $5 million US. The next 5 years growing from 5 to just under $300 million. 5 after that, from 300 to crossing $1 billion. That was 2010. and less than 3 years to cross the second $1 billion. Our latest outlook for the year is to grow just under $3 billion, and we were just asked to join the S&P 500. And I was one of those sitting in the room right now saying, I have no idea what I'm going to do. It can be you, but it has to be your decision. So I'd like to give you 3 quick pieces of advice as we move on. Because the first piece of advice is always start with your team. The team, as I'm telling you, is sitting in your room. I've got the most incredible team in the world, more than 8,000 strong now, 1,700 of which are based up in Baltimore with me each and every day. The rest in more than 30 offices all over the world. I began sort of by giving a hard time as you think about those that have a job. I'm not knocking that in any way. I don't mean to, but I certainly did mean to tell you that what you think may be the case right now has a high probability of changing in some way, whatever that plan you think is so certain worked out. What you're about to face is a sea of uncertainty to change, and I'm here to tell you that that's okay. I'm also to tell you that just like you, I had an idea, but not the real clue as to what I was going to do. I had a plan, sort of, but it was more like a guide. 2 great quotes that can help put what having a guide versus having a specific plan into place really means. The first is from one of my board members at Under Armour, Admiral Eric Olson, recently retired, who ran all Special Operations Command. He's a 4-star admiral in the United States Navy and also held the designation of the Bullfrog, which means the longest-serving Navy SEAL. So he's the one that ran and directed all of Special Operations Command, Delta, the SEAL teams, etc. And they had a slogan or saying that Admiral Olson would use the SEAL teams, and it said, whenever the map differs from the terrain, go with the terrain. Pretty simple idea as you think about it. The second quote I'd like to give is from the great American philosopher, Iron Mike Tyson, who famously once said, when asked about someone who's about to fight him, who'd been training and hired the best doctors, the best physios, everyone else, said, what's your idea, what's your plan, what are you thinking about doing for this? And Mike very famously responded with, yeah, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. It will happen to you, and your plan will change. You don't have to brace for it either. Just be willing to accept it and go, because you're going to face adversity. So learn how to balance that uncertainty with your own ability to get back up and continue fighting no matter what adversity comes your way, because it may very well be self-inflicted from a bad decision that you made, or direction, or even something out of your control like the economy. But whatever you do, don't sit around waiting for something to go wrong. Give it a shot, and you're the only one who needs to define what that it is for you. Be smart enough to be naive enough to not know what you can accomplish. My second piece of counsel for you. When I started Under Armour, what people don't know is they think that we started making all these things at once. In fact, we made one shirt over and over. Be famous for something. You can divine the severity of what that fame means in your own world, but become famous for one thing. If you're going to be an accountant, then be the best accountant. If you want to make t-shirts, then make the best t-shirts and do it in the best way. I challenge you because that is one thing where focus will be the defining principle of your life. Become great at something. Become the best at one thing. Become famous for one thing. And as you try to work out what that one thing is, remember, follow your passion, because when you're engaged in your passion, you're typically going to have the best ideas for what is next in the direction that you should be going. The final advice that I would give you is that you need to work really, really hard. And you probably need to sleep not so much. I mean not sleep a lot at all. You've got to embrace that it takes hard work. The great ones, they try and they work, they strive, they do anything that they can. And that sleep is one of the last things that you do. And I'm not saying it in a bad way. I'm saying it in a way that you have a choice. But if you want excellence, you have to work and hustle harder than anyone else. I run my company much like a team today. And in my office, I keep these whiteboards, 3 panels across, 5 panels deep. And on them, I keep slogans and sayings of things of how I run and manage the business. And they say things like overpromise and deliver, dictate the tempo, walk with a purpose. Done, done, done. The best merchants in the world are the ones that are dictating what's cool, not predicting what's cool. You've got to work hard, you've got to hustle, and you probably have to get ready for a bit of a lack of sleep. Because if you sleep too much, you're going to struggle, plain and simple. So I'm asking you and challenge you all, as you are today, to wake up. It's 2014. Shake off these graduation celebrations and get ready to run. Now, I'm obviously biased, and as I mentioned earlier, I've loved my experience being an entrepreneur, which is easy for me to say at this point because it's worked out so far. And whether or not you plan to start your own business, and congrats to those that already have the plan, but be just as prepared when the plan changes. But one thing you can do for others is to encourage this ability to deal with adversity and change. Get involved in a venture that's taking a chance. Don't be so certain. You're still young. You don't have full perspective yet. You have the chance to learn how much you don't know, to learn how naive that you really are. If you decide to join a Fortune 50 or 500 business, don't ever stop acting like an entrepreneur, though. Be an entrepreneur in that environment, exploring a better way to work. Help, encourage, and be positive for change in new directions, the way that a company may be going. No matter what, encourage business, encourage interaction, encourage relationships. If you also encourage these things, I promise you the return will be greater than anything you can imagine. You know, I want to tell you it's my pleasure to have the ability to share just some perspective or stories from Under Armour. And what I'll tell you as well is that it's hot outside, so I hope that you're wearing Under Armour under your caps and gowns. I promised only one plug from President Schenck. I do want to congratulate, though, all the graduates and the families that produced them. You're now officially legal adults, and the world is your opportunity today. Go get a passport, travel, go to a different place. Don't be stuck just in the 30-mile radius. Go and find and see the world. Anything can happen, and you can go in any direction, and I mean that. Find a local community, though, once you do decide to settle, and find one that fits with you. And wherever that is, commit and be a part of your community. They need you wherever that may be, and you find. For us, that's Baltimore, Maryland, and right here in Greater Washington, D.C. And finally, whatever you do today, if I can encourage you with one piece of advice, I asked you all to run, but as you head home on this beautiful Sunday afternoon, more than likely you're going to drive by a street corner that will have a little boy or little girl sitting there with a sign that probably says 25, 50, 75 cents for a cup of lemonade. I don't care how busy you are or what you have going on, but do yourself a favor and do all of us a favor. Give them that sense of accomplishment, of stopping, giving them $1, allowing them to take that, put that money in their pocket, and feel like they've done something special and good. I don't know what your own cup of lemonade is, but I encourage you all to go out and find it, and someone will give you that same opportunity too. I was very lucky to have it from a number of great people. I wish you all the very best. Have a great, great year. Focus, go out, enjoy your lives. Thank you very much, Marymount 2014. Go get life. Have fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Plank.